The downtown library was a sanctuary from the relentless afternoon rain, its hushed aisles smelling of old paper and damp wool. Leo navigated the crowded reading room, his sketchbook held close to his chest, its cover soft with wear and the spine held together by tape. A full day of classes at the community college had left him weary, yet his gaze still scanned the room with an artist's hunger for detail. As he rounded a corner, he saw an older gentleman struggling to gather a cascade of papers that had slipped from a large portfolio. The man's silver hair was impeccably combed, and he leaned heavily on an ornate wooden cane as he tried to stoop. The man, dressed in a classic tweed jacket despite the weather, seemed flustered as the loose sheets, covered in detailed architectural sketches, scattered across the floor. Most people hurried past, their focus locked on their own destinations, offering no help to the man in his predicament. Leo paused, only for a second, his desire for a quiet corner to draw warring with his conscience. Seeing the man's hands tremble slightly as he reached for a drawing made the decision for him. He knelt down quickly, carefully gathering the precious sketches. "Here, let me help you with these, sir." The man looked up, his expression of distress softening into one of quiet gratitude. "Thank you, my boy, thank you," he said, his voice a low, cultured rumble as he accepted the collected drawings. "My grip isn't what it once was." "It's no trouble at all," Leo replied, ensuring every last page was accounted for before helping the man secure them back in the portfolio. The older man took a moment to study him, his sharp eyes noting the worn canvas of Leo's bag and the charcoal smudges on his fingertips. "You have the hands of an artist," he observed with a knowing calm. "I'm Leo," the young man offered, a little shy under the direct gaze. "And you are?" "You can call me Mr. Harrison," the gentleman answered. "It's a pleasure, Leo. It's not every day a young person stops to help an old man with his mess." Leo simply nodded, a faint smile touching his lips. "My grandfather always said a minute of your time can be a lifeline to someone else." Mr. Harrison let out a soft, appreciative laugh. "A very wise man, your grandfather." The library quieted for a moment, the only sound being the rhythmic drumming of rain against the tall, arched windows. "Do you come here often to draw?" Mr. Harrison inquired, his eyes now on the sketchbook Leo held. Leo nodded, feeling a familiar mix of pride and insecurity about his work. "Every day after my classes at the college, it's the quietest place I can find." "The city college, I presume?" Mr. Harrison's eyes held a glint of insight. "Yes," Leo confirmed, slightly taken aback. "How did you know?" ... "My late wife taught a painting course there many years ago. It's a wonderful institution." Mr. Harrison's tone grew softer. "She always said it was filled with students who had a fire for their craft, just like you." Leo felt a blush creep up his neck. "How can you tell Mr. Harrison offered a small, knowing smile. "I see it in the way you hold that sketchbook, son. You carry it like it's a part of you, a necessary limb." Before Leo could formulate a reply, the main clock chimed, signaling the hour. As they continued their conversation, Mr. Harrison gestured towards Leo's bag. "It seems you carry a heavy load," he remarked, his tone gentle but insightful. "Great art requires great effort, does it not?" Leo hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by how this stranger seemed to see right through him. "Yes, sir," he eventually conceded. "It certainly does." Leo looked down at his sketchbook, his grip tightening almost unconsciously. It wasn't that he was unwilling to discuss his ambitions with Mr. Harrison, but they often felt like a fragile secret, easily broken by the harshness of his reality. Yet, there was a profound kindness in Mr. Harrison's eyes that made him feel safe. "I've wanted to be a painter my whole life," Leo confessed, his voice just above a whisper. "But sometimes it feels impossible. My sister works double shifts at the diner just to cover our rent, and art school seems like a different universe." Mr. Harrison nodded with a deep, resonating empathy, his hand resting on the head of his cane. "The most worthwhile pursuits rarely have an easy path," he said, his voice firm with conviction. "My sister says the same thing," Leo admitted, with a faint smile. "She sounds like a remarkable young woman," Mr. Harrison stated. "And you have a gift. I can sense it. It's the kind of talent that doesn't just create beauty for yourself, but for everyone who sees it." Leo glanced out the window, watching the rain streak down the glass like watercolor tears. "I think about finding a more practical job sometimes," he confessed. "But then I think of my sister and how much she believes in me. I can't imagine disappointing her." Harrison reached out and placed a reassuring hand on Leo's shoulder. "You won't," he said with absolute certainty. "As long as you continue to create, you are already honoring her faith in you." The library's fluorescent lights flickered for a moment, and Mr. Harrison straightened up, preparing to leave. He reached into the inner pocket of his tweed jacket and pulled out a small, crisp business card. "Here," he said, holding it out to Leo. "Take this." Leo looked at the card, hesitating to accept it. "What is it?" Mr. Harrison's eyes twinkled. "Consider it a map to a potential next step on your journey. Follow the instructions on the back tomorrow morning." Leo's fingers wrapped around the card, which felt strangely significant in his palm. "I don't know if I can." "You can," Mr. Harrison insisted, his tone both gentle and commanding. For a moment, the library felt profoundly empty, as if a vital presence had just departed. As the heavy doors swung shut behind him, Leo clutched his sketchbook with a renewed sense of wonder. Whatever the address on that card led to, he sensed it was the start of something new, something that could change his entire life. Leo raced up the stairs to the small apartment he shared with his sister, the business card safe within the pages of his sketchbook. The late afternoon light struggled to pierce the gloomy sky, and the scent of garlic bread from the diner downstairs filled the hallway. His sister, Clara, met him at the door, her hair pulled back in a messy bun and her apron still on. "There you are," she said, a tired but loving smile on her face. "I was starting to worry." "Just got held up at the library," Leo answered, giving her a quick hug as he came inside. "How was work?" "Crazy," Clara sighed. "But Mrs. Henderson left a big tip, so we can finally fix that leaky faucet." "That's great," he said, his mind elsewhere. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" Clara nodded, following him into the tiny living room that doubled as his art studio. Leo carefully retrieved the business card and laid it on the coffee table, his hands trembling slightly as he explained the encounter with Mr. Harrison. It was a simple, elegant card with a name and a crest, but on the back was a handwritten address and a time. "He just gave this to you?" Clara asked, her brow furrowed in a mixture of curiosity and concern. "He said it was a map," Leo replied, feeling the weight of the mystery himself. "I promised him I'd go tomorrow." He decided not to tell her about the full extent of their conversation, not wanting to get her hopes up. The next morning, Leo found the address in a historic part of the city, a place with cobblestone streets and old brick storefronts. It was a prestigious art supply store, the kind he had only ever admired through the window. Taking a deep breath, he went inside, where the owner, a woman with kind eyes, was waiting for him. "You must be Leo," she said warmly, and handed him a thick envelope. Inside was a beautifully written letter and a formal-looking document. "Dear Leo," the letter began, "sometimes we encounter a spirit that reignites a passion we thought was lost. Yesterday, in you, I saw the same unwavering dedication that my dear wife Eleanor possessed. This grant is from a trust I established in her name. She was a painter who never had the chance to share her full gift with the world. I hope this allows you to acquire the tools you need to share yours. The world is in desperate need of the beauty you can create. Leo, never doubt your own light. Yours, Henry Harrison." Leo's hands shook as he looked at the second paper, a certificate for a $5,000 line of credit at the store. His mind reeled with a storm of emotions: shock, overwhelming gratitude, and a feeling he hadn't dared to entertain for years. It was the feeling of possibility, the kind of breathtaking hope that made him believe his dreams were not just fantasies, but tangible goals within his reach. For several long moments, he just stood there in the quiet store, the letter and certificate clutched in his hands. He then fumbled for his phone, his first instinct to find Mr. Harrison's number, which was printed at the bottom of the letterhead. He had to express his gratitude, to somehow convey the magnitude of this gift. But his first call needed to be to the one person who had always been his biggest supporter. Leo burst through the door of the diner, where Clara was starting her morning shift, the envelope held tightly in his hand. Clara, a strong young woman whose exhaustion was often masked by her resilient spirit, looked up from polishing silverware. "Leo, what is it? You look like you're about to explode," she said, her expression shifting to one of immediate concern. "Clara," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you're not going to believe this." He spread the documents out on an empty table, carefully smoothing the creases as Clara leaned over to read them. He watched her face as her eyes moved across the letter, her initial confusion melting into wide-eyed astonishment, and finally into something soft and beautiful. It was a look of pure, unadulterated joy, mingled with tears of relief. "Who is Mr. Harrison?" she whispered, her finger tracing the elegant signature at the bottom of the page. "He's the man from the library," Leo explained, the story tumbling out of him now. "I helped him with his drawings, and we just started talking, and then he gave me his card." Clara sank into a chair, the reality of the moment slowly dawning on her. "He just did this for you?" Leo nodded, his own disbelief still fresh. "He said it's in memory of his wife, who was a painter like me." "Leo, this changes everything. This can really happen for you now." His sister looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Does this mean you're going to be a real artist?" Leo knelt beside her, his own emotions welling up. "It means I have a real shot," he said, his voice cracking. "A real shot." Clara reached out and squeezed his hand, her grip conveying years of shared struggles and unwavering support. "You deserve this more than anyone," she said fiercely. "You're going to make his wife proud, Leo. I just know it." He swallowed hard against the lump in his throat and nodded. "I have to call him," he said. "I have to thank him." Clara smiled through her tears. You absolutely should, but just sit with this for a minute first. Later that day, after the initial shock had subsided into a steady, glowing warmth, Leo sat in his small studio space, his phone in hand. The number on Mr. Harrison's letter seemed to hum with significance, but he knew this call was one he had to make. Taking a calming breath, he pressed the numbers. A familiar, gentle voice answered after the second ring. "Harrison speaking." "Mr. Harrison, it's Leo, the young man from the library," he said, his voice clearer than he expected. "Ah, Leo, my boy." Mr. Harrison's voice was filled with warmth. "I was hoping I might hear from you today." "Sir, I don't know what to say," Leo stammered, gripping the phone. "Thank you seems so small for what you've done." Mr. Harrison chuckled warmly on the other end of the line. "You owe me no thanks, son. The knowledge that a young artist like you has the tools to create is all the gratitude I need." Leo's throat tightened with emotion. "I promise I will make the most of this. I will work every day to be worthy of this." "You already are," Mr. Harrison said kindly. "But understand, this is only a key. You are the one who must still open the door." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of creative energy for Leo. Mr. Harrison's gift was more than financial. It was a profound vote of confidence. They began to meet for coffee regularly, their conversations quickly forming the foundation of a powerful mentorship and a genuine friendship. It was a bond that Leo, who had grown up without a father figure, cherished more than the grant itself. On a bright, crisp autumn afternoon, Mr. Harrison invited Leo to his home, a beautiful brownstone filled with art and books. As they sat in his study, surrounded by shelves of architectural history and the faint scent of pipe tobacco, Leo felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced before. "You didn't need to go to any trouble," Leo said, looking at the tray of pastries and coffee Mr. Harrison had prepared. "Nonsense." The older man waved a dismissive hand. "Hospitality is never a trouble. Now, tell me what you've been working on." They spent hours talking, with Leo sharing his artistic vision, his influences, and his dreams of one day having his own gallery show. Mr. Harrison listened with an engaged and critical eye, offering insights and encouragement that were more valuable than any textbook. "You have so much of Eleanor in you," Mr. Harrison said quietly, his gaze drifting to a small, beautifully rendered portrait of a woman on the mantelpiece. She had a kind face and eyes that seemed to hold a world of creativity. "May I ask about her?" Leo asked softly. Mr. Harrison's expression was a mixture of love and melancholy. She passed away nearly a decade ago from an illness. She was on the verge of her first major exhibition. Leo's heart went out to the man, who spoke of his wife with such palpable love. "I am so sorry for your loss." "She was my everything," Mr. Harrison said, his voice steady despite the emotion. "But I've come to believe that a creative spirit never truly vanishes. It finds new vessels, and when I saw your work, I saw a reflection of her light." The study was quiet for a long moment, filled only by the gravity of his words. Leo felt an immense sense of responsibility and inspiration settle over him. "I will honor her legacy," he said, his voice full of resolve. "I'll make this matter." Mr. Harrison smiled, a true, brilliant smile. "I have no doubt you will, my boy. I wouldn't have chosen you otherwise." As their meeting concluded, Mr. Harrison pulled a worn, leather-bound book from his shelf. "This was Eleanor's journal of sketches," he said. "I believe you will find it speaks to you." Leo accepted the book with reverence. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for everything. Walking home through the city as dusk settled, the journal held tightly under his arm, Leo felt a powerful sense of direction. This was no longer just his own dream he was chasing. It was a legacy he was now honored to carry forward, one brushstroke at a time. In the months that followed, Leo dedicated himself to his art with a fierce and joyful discipline. Mr. Harrison's mentorship was a steadying hand, providing not just technical advice, but invaluable wisdom. Their regular meetings became a cornerstone of Leo's development, pushing him to experiment and refine his unique voice. At college, his professors were astounded by his rapid progress. Leo's work gained a depth and confidence that was impossible to ignore, and he began to submit his paintings to local competitions. It wasn't always a smooth path. The financial pressures on his family hadn't vanished overnight, and he still helped Clara by picking up shifts at the diner whenever he could. But now, the struggle was fuel, not an obstacle. One evening, Leo showed his portfolio to his art history professor, Dr. Anya Sharma. He nervously shared the story of how Mr. Harrison's grant had made it all possible. Dr. Sharma listened with a warm, encouraging smile. "That is an extraordinary story, Leo," she said, her eyes alight with admiration. "It proves that patronage is not dead. If you ever need a letter of recommendation or a connection to a gallery, do not hesitate to ask." Bolstered by her belief in him, Leo began to build a small network of supporters, each new person a testament to the foundation Mr. Harrison had helped him build. As Leo's reputation grew, so too did the story of Mr. Harrison's generosity. His act of kindness started a small ripple in the local arts community, inspiring conversations about supporting emerging talent. The art supply store, moved by the story, started a small fund to provide materials for other students from the community college. Even small donations of canvases or sets of paints began to appear, creating a small but growing wave of support. Leo, now in his final year, began mentoring younger art students himself, sharing his own experiences and always giving credit to Mr. Harrison. He would tell them his story, his voice filled with passion, as he urged them to pursue their own creative paths against all odds. By the time Leo graduated with top honors, he had already secured a grant for a solo exhibition. Mr. Harrison sat in the front row during the graduation ceremony, his tweed jacket a familiar and comforting sight. When Leo's name was called for a special distinction in fine arts, he walked to the podium and looked directly at his mentor. "This achievement is not mine alone," Leo said, his voice clear and strong. "It belongs to my sister, my professors, and most of all to Mr. Henry Harrison, whose belief in a stranger showed me that kindness is the most powerful medium of all." The applause was heartfelt, but Mr. Harrison merely nodded, a look of immense pride on his face. Years later, as Leo stood before a crowd at the opening of his first solo gallery show, he saw Mr. Harrison in the front row again, his cane resting against his chair. The exhibition was named Eleanor's Light, a tribute to the woman whose unseen legacy had illuminated his path. As he gave his opening remarks, surrounded by his proud sister and the community that had supported him, Leo thought about the journey. All of it. The paintings on the walls, his burgeoning career, his ability to inspire others, had sprung from a single chance encounter in a library on a rainy day. That moment had taught him and everyone who knew his story that a simple act of help could be the catalyst for a masterpiece. In the end, it was never just about his own success. It was about using his gift to reflect the light that had been so generously shown on him, just as Mr. Harrison had done.